Everybody, hello Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. I'll play a game in 10 minutes per game per side to start off and probably move to a blitz setting at some point. pitch scream there. That soda's down to the last sip. Against ice. it's just the one. Try to side right there. Left side. Okay. Bonne fête. Fête means celebration in French, but jeu means game. Les jeux sont faits. Game or sometimes games. I think at the end of a chess game, the Frenchmen say bonne fête because bon jeu sounds quite a bit like bonjour. We know it to mean hello in French. Greetings, good day, bonjour. So I think I'll look. I'll come back with a better know-how on this, but I think to say a good game in French, you say bonne fête. Literally means great celebration. It was a great celebration, but in context, it means a game of chess. Bonne fête. Mais je dois dire que avec les deux, mon ami et moi, sont deux jeux. Nous avons joué deux jeux d'échecs. N'est pas seulement un. Yeah, he abandoned the game, but he didn't time out. He didn't like wait for me to sit through these 5 minutes and then abandon. So it's just kind of like a hurried man's resignation. And it was, I would say, in my taste, maybe a touch on the early side. But that, hey, the rules say you can resign, so that's what my opponent did. And that was only after playing two great games of chess against me. I really enjoyed these games. This first game, I hope, was one of my, I don't know, the first game I lost, but man, my opponent played so very well. Alright, and now I'm going to finish this game against the computer. Black has 2 points of material. A quick analysis is Black has 2 points of material and a ton of other positional trumps. Pinning a piece, and in a strong way. There's a pawn, a passed pawn, as far as the third rank. He's got a very healthy bishop that can influence on the king side whether or not white chooses to castle. I believe white still has the option to castle. Scanning down the notation here. Yes, white may still castle. Black is castled himself, and with a safe king, the one advice being beware of this h1 rook should he fly to a8 and show a back rank checkmate. So maybe at some time it's in Black's interest to play h6 or f6. Why not g6? Well, because it kind of crowds Black's own light square bishop. So those things. So Black is doing well. Let's see if I can close this out against the super strong computer on the highest level, taking over an inferior side of the board, but still computers. Don't eat home without them, especially if you're talking about a baseball home, in which case you actually probably shouldn't eat home at all. Those things are made out of rubber and plastic, and they're huge, so don't do that. Alright, what do we have here? Bishop to f3, my opponent played. Yeah, I think Black is going to do well to simply load on to the pinned piece. Trade. And this e3 pawn, this is the type of thing a computer might not... computer, don't eat home without him. But yeah, no, this e3 pawn, he's there, man. He's going to be there. He's on a dark square. Now that being said, I guess white could undermine his defense, but only at the cost of creating another pass pawn on the d file. So black should be able to force a win here. Oops. I was thinking of doing this, but didn't count on this part, that last full move. So we gotta go back. Bummer, man, bummer. All right, so instead of king f7 is tempting because I would play king to f7, and I did against the computer, not in real life, but whatever. I played king to f7, okay, and pawn to g6 is good except for white goes immediately after the passed pawn. He's gonna get this passed pawn. I had thought as much. I thought maybe I would then play g6 and have a way to burst through either with h5 and the g pawn moves forward to be captured. I guess there's also h3. Now this was a bad challenge on the king side here. Let's just chalk this up to king to f7 was a true blunder. It's white to move here. No, sorry, it's black to move here. We're gonna go directly here. Now moving d4 ahead of the king, right? We normally want to move our pawn. We want to get our king established in front of the pawn and then do the dance where we claim the opposition over and over while also pushing the pawn. That is beginners, or sort of like halfway through beginners, need to know this. But I'm going to push this pawn ahead of the king. My main idea is to gain space, some real estate against the white king. At the danger now of losing this pawn, but can I might play a4. I think a3 is good. Now black is locked out of good moves. The one option would be a decoy. I think that's fine. The decoy works here, so we're going to go with that. we got the progress bar didn't like one of these moves. King takes f5 seems fine. No, it's considered a mistake. The other thoughts were g6 or g7 to g5, but then this is not good at all, so that can't be. And it's got to be king takes h5. Now we can push g5, capture the pawn on the g file. The pawn's going after that. Okay, I don't like this, too difficult. We're gonna go back a bit, see if we can find a more straightforward solution. Here we seem to be in good company, even after d2. King takes d2. All of a sudden, black is not doing quite as well. I'm gonna try to force white to choose a side, and I'm gonna try to force white to choose the wrong side. I take the opposition directly this time rather than going for the G pawn like last time. And note that if I'm able to capture and then space away from this A2 pawn, then this pawn is almost there. So we should be there in plenty of time here. It looks like there's some stalemating tactics. See, our kings are just going to go back and forth here. So we go backwards. King c3 seems to still be okay. It might be one of these finesse ways of counting the tempos. Like it's maybe instead of king to b2, might the move be? No, it's white to move. So white moves might the move be? What could that be? King c3 is the culprit here. So these end games where one side has a king and a queen, and the other side has a king, a queen, and a pawn, or in this case, two pawns. Uh, the queen end games are notoriously difficult. So I'm gonna let myself a little bit off the hook on this one. These end games are just in every move. The queen in every move, the side to move has an extremely large number of moves to consider just from the queen herself, and usually 7, 8, usually 6, 7, or 8 moves by way of the king added to that. And then if you have the pawns, then of course there's a few moves, not all that many moves in addition. But these games are tough. How do you calculate when every move has a move? This will be a good situation for a computer to use, well, to lean a little more heavily either on table base, which is now solved, solved end games like this one completely. The best move is known. Or if without table base, leaning a little bit more on force, brute force, than normal, and less on pruning, because there's just the wild number of positions and games that can result from a position like this. Brute force. The computer can get through it, and there's no good way to heuristically prune to say, like, with the queen at a3, how is that all that much better than if she's at d3, save for calculating that she's better at d3 or a3. Alright, so you rely less on pruning, more on brute force in a situation like this. Whose turn is it? I think this is Black's turn to move. He's in check, so it better be his turn to move. I'm gonna try g3. No, not quite. This is not for want of this is not because of difficulty. G3, then of course Queen H4 check, King forced away from the 4th rank, and then of course grabbing the whites grabbing the pawn on G3. So sometimes you just kind of not make a move like pawn to G3. I said king to G3, I meant pawn to G3. Yikes. Let's do a few more hints here. One thing I noticed, it seems like Black's king likes to go all the way around the pawns to get to the other side of the board, and that affords some sort of relief from the otherwise incessant checks that White's queen is levying upon him. Now here I want to play Queen G5. I'm just gonna hit with Queen to E4. Do I follow up the board then? Let's try Queen G5. All right, so now Black's king is finding more and more space, closer and closer to queening one or both of these pawns. Of course, if this happens in a game and you're playing against a human, the both sides should be looking for ways to win your opponent's queen. That should be obvious, right? Um, but as black, I'd be happy with just a simple trade of some sort. But white's avoiding that as best as white can. I would probably play f3. Okay, good. We got a good one out of that. Now, I'm wondering if I should be avoiding the great wide open here. I think. Here we go. Oh no, it's almost there. Pawn is pinned. Okay. So pretty much we got it here. This is an instance where black might rally the wagons. Basically means cover the king, but actually it's not for that, because this pawn is now also a queen, and there are just a lot of queens on the board. But queen to h3 check gets it done here with the trade of queens, and now white will be checkmated. This might maybe have a game finished in person. This is my opponent checkmated me after a 63 move game. We played well. I lost it. Two blunders. 123 moves. I would like review. Keep that open just for now. No, I checkmated after 63 moves, so I had that wrong. My opponent, real life opponent, resigned here after move 23. Then I played the computer for not that many moves, but like 40 moves or so, and there was a checkmate at the end of that. I won after that. Then I don't know how I got to this game where we just saw me win that complicated endgame with like probably dozens of hints and dozens of takebacks. Like I said, these positions where king and queen versus king and queen and a pawn or two, notoriously complicated. They are notoriously complicated. Alright. That game and then this game. Did we go over this game? Move 23. Yes, so we did go over this game. It turned out to be quite a complicated victory for black. I'll take it though. Yeah, it was a good victory for Black here. And parts of this endgame had to be very precise, but with the computer's help, we eventually hinted out on that. So that's fine. We'll close these. I think I'm gonna play to my next uh, to my next win on game in 5 minutes per side per game. Okay. Okay. So an even game and just a real blunder at the end there. I felt I played strong. I'm exerting pressure. Look at some of the. This we'll go over this game then. 4 knights opening. The Spanish. This is the Spanish 4 knights. You can call it the 4 knights, I think, but I'm not sure. And this is the Spanish 4 knights. Oh, not quite. No, Spanish 4 knights is with Black's bishop at b4. So, anyway, 4 knights opening. D6 has been tried, and I chose to open up the middle straight away, push, and gain 1 pawn advantage in material from the resulting exchanges. Now here's interesting moment. When my opponent, after I capture that pawn, my opponent captures on b5. No, I was thinking something else. It's not all that. It's very straightforward, actually, to play how the game was played there. And bishop to e7. I could have done better than. I might think about something better than bishop to g5 here. More pressure on the center with bishop f4, maybe supporting e5. Against the possibility of a fork because the queen is there to aid. And we have this nice d4 e5 thing going on. This battery, queen and bishop, kind of pointing towards the side to which black is most likely gonna castle. Castling here, and white starts a pawn storm. Now this is an interesting point, like long term wise in my game. My opponent played knight to g4, which it may have been an accuracy. That's not what I'm centering on. Old Jordan from 5 or more years ago, would have played. I probably did anyway, didn't I? I would have played f3 right away to try to get this knight without calculating and realizing the knight has an awesome outpost on e5. f3 is only good if you're planning f4, and f4 is only good if it doesn't cost you your bishop. Or maybe white's. I don't know. Yeah, if it. Rather, with these squares highlighted, it doesn't cost you your bishop. Okay? So f3 right away, I'd say, is not the move. Let's be a little bit more thorough about that. No, computer likes it for white here. I don't like it because maybe f4 does not have to be played immediately after. Let's try. On practice, f3. I'm seeing knight to e5 where he has this tremendous outpost. And I thought, well, we have to kick him, so pawn to e4. But that traps in my bishop, so I don't like that. That's not good. And maybe white can first liquidate on e7, and here we are. Now we kick the knight, and white's doing well here. All right, so torch 4 with another great indication here that f3 actually was playable. um, mostly because we could liquidate before, uh, right before pushing f4. That was a key element in calculating the correct move there. I should make a note to myself when there's like a situation like that, like a critical position. If I played it well, if I played it poorly, I'm gonna make my note. Here's my note to myself: it's highlight the square with no arrows. All right, so back on the main board here, we're gonna play f3 and highlight this square. No, wait, are we? No. With white to move. Yeah, okay, f3 and highlight the square. No. So queen takes e7 was played. Back into the actual game. Queenside castles is good. Eventually using the theme of kicking the knight with the f pawn. And my opponent played back to f6, which works into my plans a little bit. If I push the g pawn far enough, then maybe a rook, one rook or the other is on the g file, and the g and black's g pawn becomes pinned if these say there's some liquidation of pawns, in this area, sort of strategically and in broad strokes here. But the idea is eventually that knight on f6 is protected by a pinned pawn, and this queen's going to be more active than to just stay on e7 for the rest of the game. So I thought knight to f6 was okay for white. White could make something out of it. I started pushing the h pawn. That notwithstanding, because you can't count on all that, right? You can't count on the file clearing itself so easily and so on. So instead of, I wanted to do something I could count on, just a concrete improvement in the position for white, the move pawn to h5. Right now, my pawn storm has pretty much almost all the black knight's moves covered. And so it's a serious pawn storm, plus it's restricting black's g pawn to some extent. We're preparing g4. We've got the queen is in place for an attack. The rook on h1 could stay right where he is and be really awesome in this attack. The rook on d1 might swing to f1 or swing over to g1 and be a strong part in the attack. And all that's needed to hold down the center and the queen's side of the board, where white has castled, is this knight on c3. Is the pawns, this knight and these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 pawns and the king. That's that holds down this entire queen side. So white's going to use his force to attack black. H. Yeah. Knight to d7, most likely to reposition the knight to a place where he might be in a part of one such attack against the white castled king on the queen side. I'm not worried about that yet, mostly because of initiative. White has this position. There's a lot about this because white has a ton of space. 1 point in material advantage. A king is definitely safe enough. Initiative, like we're gonna get back to that, and king safety and mobility. White has a ton of mobility. Center control is sometimes thought of one of these, but let's include that in mobility for now. Clock, not so good. White's behind on the clock. And I think that's all of them. Space. We showed space is favoring white heavily. And so that's that. Yeah, so the next move, pawn to h6. Threatens mate. And if black captures, then Like G takes H6, Rook takes H6 is also extremely bad for black and good for white. The rooks are going to double on the H file and be very powerful. There's now a hole punched in black's defenses. It's looking very good for white. And of course, G6 seems to evade being captured on G7, and where the black king would have to recapture on G7. That's ugly. What I think my opponent might have overlooked is that that's worse than ugly, because the king's not going to G7 anytime soon, because the queen will be covering that square without some sort of intervention first. Maybe a knight to F6 or queen to F6. But yeah, so G6 is not as silly as it's not a silly move. It's a blunder. G6 is a blunder. So queen to G7, checkmate. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. Find more gravity. Have a great night.